नमस्कार, आप सभी का स्वागत है। मैं हूं राहुल और आप देख रहे हैं PMeVIDYA चैनल्स और NCERT का ऑफिशियल यूट्यूब चैनल। दिस इज चैनल नंबर 10 एंड वी ब्रिंग यू द लाइव टेलीकास्ट ऑफ आवर टीचिंग लर्निंग इंटरवेंशंस फॉर इंक्लूसिव क्लासरूम। आज हम सोशल स्टडी की बात करने जा रहे हैं क्लास 10th में। यू कैन ऑल्सो बी अ पार्ट ऑफ दिस लाइव इंटरैक्टिव सेशन विद आवर एक्सपर्ट्स। You can use our telephone number, which is 8800440559, and you can use the email ID of class 10th as well. आप मेरे साथ स्क्रीन पर साइनर देख रहे हैं, अनिकेत इनका नाम है। अनिकेत, नमस्कार, आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। He is an interpreter and he will interpret everything in the sign language what we are going to discuss in this session. So in social study today we are going to discuss the rise of nationalism in Europe. और इस सब्जेक्ट को आप को पढ़ाने के लिए, समझाने के लिए हमारे साथ आज एक ख़ास मेहमान जुड़ रहे हैं। मैं उनका भी स्वागत करता हूं। हमारे साथ हैं जो कि डी लर्नर्स के फाउंडर हैं। उनका नाम है मिस्टर अरुण फर्नांडिस। मिस्टर फर्नांडिस, नमस्कार, वेरी वार्म वेलकम।
हेलो सर,
गुड आफ्टरनून, प्लेजर टू हैव यू। और आप हमारे साथ जुड़े, आपने टाइम निकाला, उसके लिए बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। सोशल स्टडी का दिस इज़ अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट चैप्टर आई थिंक। एंड जब नेशनलिज्म की बात करते हैं तो बच्चे जो प्रीवियस क्लासेस में पढ़कर आते हैं उसमें इंडिया का भी नेशनलिज्म वो पढ़ते हैं। और जाहिर सी बात है कि जो थिंक टैंक होते हैं उनके लिए ये सब चीज़ें पढ़ना बहुत ज़रूरी है, क्योंकि वो कहीं ना कहीं पॉलिसी मेकिंग का भी हिस्सा होते हैं। तमाम और भी जो बेंचेस होती हैं उनका भी वो हिस्सा बनते हैं। तो हाउ इम्पॉर्टेंट इज़ दिस चैप्टर फॉर क्लास 10 स्टूडेंट्स? एंड we would like to know about the Universal Democratic and Social Republic 1848 by French artist Frédéric Soriot। इसके बारे में भी मैंने पढ़ा था, तो ये मैंने आपसे पहले ही पूछ लिया है ताकि हम थोड़ा टाइम सेव कर सकें। एंड दिस इज आवर इंक्लूसिव क्लासरूम, सो चिल्ड्रन विद स्पेशल नीड्स आर आल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर अस। प्लीज now
thank you so much, sir, for this opportunity. Yes, to start with, I just have a presentation on this description of the pictorial. I'm just playing this video for you, for the students.
Please.
Democratic and Social Republic by French artist Frédéric Soriot. He had visualized a utopian world made up of democratic and social republics. Now, a utopian vision is the vision of a perfect society that is so ideal that it is unlikely to actually exist. If you look carefully, Soriot shows people from different countries and all walks of life marching towards the Statue of Liberty, each of them wearing their national costume and carrying revolutionary flags. The countries leading the procession are the United States and Switzerland. They are followed by the French people, carrying the revolutionary tricolor. France has just reached the Statue of Liberty. By this time, the revolution had taken place in France. France is followed by the German people with their flag. Other countries of Europe, such as Sicily, Lombardy, Poland, England, Ireland, Hungary, and Russia are behind Germany. The rubble in the foreground signifies the end of absolutist institutions and monarchy. Absolutism can be defined as a government or a system of rule with a lot of uncontrolled power. It also refers to an oppressive monarchical government.
So what I've tried to do here is when we are talking about Frédéric Soriot, we are also pointing out the different elements in the same painting wherein it can actually connect to an inclusive class setup too. And mentioning the taglines, like for instance, this is a torch and this is what is a man of right and so on. So that makes them to actually associate with the content, and not only a text but also visuals really help. And now as I'm introducing the words to them, absolutism, I've syllabicated it wherein they can actually make it into different syllables and start learning the spelling. And when it is utopian, again I've syllabicated it, and I've also given the content in the side. So here, for a child having reading difficulties and so on, you can actually select a content this way and make it read aloud for the child.
Literally, a government or system of rule that has no restraints on the power exercised. In history, the term refers to a form of monarchical government that was centralized, militarized and repressive.
So in that way, it can also, they can, there are different tools which is also making the pace slower.
A vision of a society that is so ideal that it is unlikely to actually exist.
So it's gone are the days that a person should actually read up to the children. It can actually be this way too today.
Right. So we can say we can cater our inclusive classroom with the help of these tools.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then when we are wanting to have a representation on the next topic I wanted to cover is on the revolution, on the idea of nationalism. So at this process, what actually happens is the power of the transfer of monarchy to citizenship, and there are participation. They created flags to the country, they created national anthems to this country and so on. And these kind of pointers, when we are wanting to do, we can also add more interpretation of on the actual national anthem song and so on, which will actually retain the concept for the child and also make the whole concept more aspect of remembering the pointers will be more easier. So as the same thing when we are talking about Napoleon Bonaparte, when he kind of, what is the revolution he has created. So the revolution he has created, he has actually developed a lot of new laws and systems and so on. But when we look at a textbook, it is a lot of text only involved. So if we involve something like content can be in English, but explanation can be in vernacular language, that will actually associate the children more better. So something like this, I'll just play the video.
Okay, please.
अपने हाथ में ले लेता है। उस व्यक्ति का नाम था नेपोलियन बोनापार्ट। इसने क्या किया कि ये कोड लेकर आया जिसका नाम था सिविल कोड ऑफ 1804। इसे नेपोलियन कोड भी बोला जाता है। ये बेसिकली कुछ नहीं था, ये बस कुछ चेंजेस थे जो कि नेपोलियन ने किए थे डिक्टेटर बनने के बाद। तो क्या क्या किया था नेपोलियन ने, देखो। फर्स्ट, एस्टेब्लिश्ड इक्वालिटी बिफोर लॉ। पहले क्या होता था कि फ्रांस में सारे लोगों को इक्वल नहीं माना जाता था। जो चर्च और नोबल्स होते थे उन्हें सुपीरियर माना जाता था, उन्हें वर्थ के बेसिस पे प्रिविलेजेस भी मिलते थे। लेकिन अब ऐसा नहीं था। नेपोलियन ने क्या किया कि सबको इक्वल कर दिया, मतलब कानून की नजर में सब लोग बराबर रहेंगे, ना ही कोई सुपीरियर रहेगा और ना ही कोई कमजोर रहेगा। सेकंड, सिक्योर द राइट ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी। नेपोलियन ने क्या किया कि लोगों को राइट टू प्रॉपर्टी दिला दिया, मतलब अगर किसी के पास पैसा है तो वो प्रॉपर्टी खरीद सकता है और वो प्रॉपर्टी उसी की रहेगी, कोई उससे छीन नहीं सकता। थर्ड, अबॉलिश फ्यूडल सिस्टम। पहले क्या होता था कि जो बड़े बड़े लैंडलॉर्ड्स होते थे उन्हें फ्यूडल लॉर्ड्स भी कहते थे। वो क्या करते थे, वो पीजेंट्स पर काम करवाते थे और सारा प्रॉफिट खुद ले जाते थे। बेचारे जो पीजेंट्स होते थे, मतलब जो किसान होते थे, उनका कोई फायदा ही नहीं होता था। तो नेपोलियन ने इस फ्यूडल सिस्टम को खत्म कर दिया। फोर्थ, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन एंड कम्युनिकेशन सिस्टम वर इम्प्रूव्ड। नेपोलियन ने ट्रांसपोर्टेशन और कम्युनिकेशन सिस्टम को काफी इम्प्रूव कर दिया था, जिसकी वजह से फ्रांस में डेवलपमेंट काफी तेजी से हो रहा था। फिफ्थ, स्टैंडर्डाइज्ड वेट एंड मेजर एंड कॉमन करेंसी। मतलब वजन और माप को स्टैंडर्डाइज कर दिया और इसके अलावा जो अलग अलग प्रकार की करेंसी चलती थी फ्रांस के अंदर, उनको हटाकर एक तरह की करेंसी में बदल दिया। सिक्स्थ, गिल्ट रिस्ट्रिक्शन वर रिमूव्ड। मतलब नेपोलियन ने क्या किया कि गिल्ट रिस्ट्रिक्शन को हटा दिया। इससे फायदा क्या हुआ कि मर्चेंट्स, आर्टिसियंस अब सब फ्रीली ट्रेड कर सकते हैं।
So here the one interesting fact here is, as you're blending vernacular instructions with English, and as when kids today can go to they can associate with everyday aspects also. Like for instance, the measuring cup and whatever we are using today in our grocery stores and so on was actually developed through Napoleon. So we can attach it through a exercise. They can go to the nearest grocery stores and see the measuring cups and so on to associate with this content.
Right, and I think one more thing I felt in this video कि ये जो ऑडियो था ये किसी बच्चे से ही आपने रिकॉर्ड करवाया, तो आई थिंक दिस इज द बेस्ट पार्ट ऑफ द इंक्लूसिव क्लासरूम, राइट?
Exactly.
He is not at all a professional artist, और आप क्लास में ही ये चीज़ें करवा रहे हैं ताकि वो उसको पढ़ें, उसको जानें, और इस तरीके की जब एक्सरसाइज एक्टिविटी होती है तो वो इंक्लूसिव क्लासरूम में तो हेल्पफुल होती ही है, साथ ही साथ बच्चों को जो कंटेंट मेमोराइज करना होता है, जो समझना होता है, उसमें भी आसानी होती है.
Very true. And then it will also actually add on. These are a lot of tools and things which we already have it in YouTube. So any teacher can actually use this because all these are copyright free content.
Right, right.
So coming back to the same words to understand, again it is every word what has been covered is syllabicated, and it is also kind of given something.
Play by sight.
So what is the meaning of it and so on, and they will be able to...
A direct vote by which all the people of a region are asked to accept or reject a proposal.
Different words covered in the particular topic which we saw, and that is a follow-up of the same. And all this can be, every time when the kid is experiencing a new word, if the word is syllabicated like this, the ability of them to retain will be more better, and also would also be able to read it would be also more better when it is an inclusive classroom.
Okay.
Then we kind of go to the next topic on this making of nation. So when before this, I'll kind of give you a normal explanation which is in the textbook. So we can just have a comparison of which actually makes it more understandable for the child. So this is an exact textbook content, but when we want to kind of make the child read it.
In this essay, Renan criticizes the notion suggested by others that a nation is formed by a common language, race, religion, or territory. A nation is the culmination of a long past of endeavors, sacrifice and devotion, a heroic past, great men, glory, that is the social capital upon which one bases a national idea, to have common glories in the past, to have a common will in the present, to have performed great deeds together, to wish to perform still more. These are the essential conditions of being a people. A nation is therefore large-scale solidarity. Its existence is a daily plebiscite. A province is its inhabitants. If anyone has the right to be consulted, it is the inhabitant. A nation never has any real interest in annexing or holding onto a country against its will. The existence of nations is a good thing, a necessity even. Their existence is a guarantee of liberty, which would be lost if the world had only one Lord, only one master.
Once when you kind of have this introduction to the content and so on, then of what is a nation and so on, they can connect it to a real-time example to something like this.
So if we read this text from the textbook, and as you are using some software, so is this helpful for the other regional languages as well?
So this software could now only read Indian languages, English. But the point is there are a lot of other softwares for you need to do an upgrade for Hindi and Tamil and other languages also. It is there, but
all right, because we need to cater all the needs, across India. So I just had a question, because we can see that this is translating in English only and reading in English only. As we seen the audio of Hindi, which is very helpful, I think. So we can cater the usage of further states. So
very true.
As we have seen, so let's move ahead. What would you like to add here?
So here we are just giving an introduction, and we are actually correlating to the real time and making it as a vernacular instructions with this video.
Okay.
भी नेशन स्टेट नहीं था. नेशन स्टेट का मतलब होता है कि कोई भी ऐसी कंट्री जिसमें मोस्ट ऑफ द पीपल कॉमन लैंग्वेज, कल्चर, आइडेंटिटी को फॉलो करते हो. फॉर एग्जांपल, आज के टाइम पे जितनी भी कंट्रीज है वे सारी नेशन स्टेट्स हैं, लेकिन पहले ऐसा नहीं होता था. अगर हम मिड 18th सेंचुरी वाले यूरोप के मैप को देखेंगे तो हमें कोई भी नेशन स्टेट देखने को नहीं मिलेगा, बल्कि हमें बड़े बड़े साम्राज्य देखने को मिलेंगे जिनके ऊपर राजा महाराजा रूल करते थे. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर हम बात करें हुब्सबर्ग एम्पायर की, तो इसके अंदर भांति भांति प्रकार के लोग रहते थे जिनके आइडिया, कल्चर, ट्रेडिशन, लैंग्वेज सब कुछ अलग अलग था। अब आप खुद ही सोचो कि अगर इनमें इतनी ज्यादा डाइवर्सिटी होगी तो क्या कभी इनके मन में ऐसा आइडिया आएगा कि हमें एक नेशन स्टेट बनाना चाहिए जिसमें सबकी कॉमन लैंग्वेज, कल्चर, ट्रेडिशन सब कुछ सेम हो? आप में से कई लोग कहेंगे कि नहीं आएगा, बट एक्चुअली में नेशन स्टेट का आइडिया इनके पास आता है। अब वो कैसे आता है चलिए जानते हैं। द अरिस्टोक्रेसी एंड द न्यू मिडिल क्लास। दोस्तों, उस समय पर यूरोप के अंदर दो तरह के लोग रहते थे, अरिस्टोक्रेट्स और पीजेंट्स। अरिस्टोक्रेट्स वो लोग थे जिनको सोसाइटी में रईस माना जाता था, मतलब इनको पैसे वाले लोगों में गिना जाता था। इनके पास जमीनें थी, बड़े बड़े टाउन हाउसेस थे। ये लोग माइनॉरिटी में थे, मतलब इनकी जो संख्या थी वो कम थी, लेकिन उसके बावजूद भी इनके पास पावर बहुत थी। क्यों? क्योंकि इनके पास पैसा था। ये जो लोग थे वे आपस की फैमिलीज में शादी करते थे और ये फ्रांस लैंग्वेज बोलते थे, क्योंकि इनका मानना ये था कि फ्रांस लैंग्वेज रईसों वाली भाषा है। इसके अलावा इनका जो स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग था वो सबका कॉमन था। एक जैसे कपड़े पहनते थे, एक जैसा खाते थे, मतलब एक जैसी लाइफस्टाइल जीते थे। वहीं जो पीजेंट्स थे वे गरीब थे, इनके पास खुद की कोई जमीन नहीं थी। ये अरिस्टोक्रेट्स की जो जमीन होती थी उन पर जाकर काम करते थे और उनकी जमीन की देखभाल करते थे। ये जो थे वो मेजॉरिटी में थे, मतलब इनकी जो पॉपुलेशन थी वो ज्यादा थी, लेकिन उसके बावजूद भी इनके पास पावर कम थी, बिकॉज ड्यू टू लैक ऑफ मनी। अब क्या होता है कि इंडस्ट्रियल रिवॉल्यूशन आता है, जिसकी वजह से एक नई वर्किंग क्लास उभर के आती है जिसका नाम था मिडिल क्लास। मिडिल क्लास में वो लोग आते थे जो ना ही ज्यादा गरीब थे और ना ही ज्यादा अमीर थे। ये एजुकेटेड लोग थे, जैसे कि बिजनेसमैन, इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट एंड अदर प्रोफेशनल। ये सब मिडिल क्लास में आते थे। तो ये जो मिडिल क्लास के लोग थे, इन्हीं के मन में आइडिया आया। क्या आइडिया आया? एक तो आया नेशन यूनिटी का, मतलब सेम कल्चर, ट्रेडिशन, लैंग्वेज वाले लोग एक साथ रहेंगे, मतलब सिंपली नेशन स्टेट का।
So basically, when we saw the bigger paragraph, and that might not actually associate with the learning. So when there is a teacher in a classroom, she should become an enabler rather than actually teaching, and creating a lot of creative tools like this to make it more visually appealing for the child and link it to the everyday issues what they've actually get across to the topic. So now a teacher, when we are kind of taking a very big topic like national state and so on, then the same thing when we talk about another final topic which I have for today is on the liberation of the women and their role in their parliament and so on. So here when we talk about different words like parliament and liberation and the freedom movement, what they've contributed and all those things, if we kind of have a paragraph like this, which is now the textbook paragraph what I've actually showed you in, and it has a lot of dates to kind of note and so on. But the same thing, if it is interpreted this way, this will actually connect to the child even more better. And the concept of women, role in women in the aspect on Europe, this topic what we are mentioning today would actually make a better sense.
Okay, so we can say this is the role of women in the nationalist struggle.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Despite upholding the concept of universal freedom, the liberal revolutionaries exhibited narrow-mindedness in their attitude towards women. Since the French Revolution, women played an active role in revolts and popular movements. They founded newspapers and political associations, but suffrage and political rights still eluded them. The Frankfurt Parliament is an example where women merely acted as spectators in the upper left gallery. Luckily, there were people who came to the rescue of women's rights. Famous political activist Louise Otto Peters wrote in the first editorial of her newspaper that liberty without the liberty of women benefited only one half of humanity, which was men. This awareness of women's rights, based on political and social equality of genders, is also known as feminism.
So that is where the equality of women played in this and so on. So this, but a big paragraph which supposed to be read in a classroom, but when it is an inclusive classroom, it should be more kind of cited in a particular situation, and adding pictures, adding vernacular instructions, or adding how to say topics which the words which are new, and syllabicated it and coloring it and so on. So here also we can actually have this big paragraph, cut it into different halves and color it into different elements and start teaching the children. So here it's more on covering this topic in 20 minutes and 30 minutes is one aspect, but in this it's actually now technically 25 minutes over. But the engagement with the kids would be more better is what I personally feel, because me being a dyslexic myself, this is how I learn, and I kind of did 2-3 masters. So that is where kind of I notion to every teacher to be more like an enabler rather than covering concepts and making the notes to be completed, rather than making the concept being more understood by the children. Using a lot of tools like this would actually engage the classroom and also enhance a classroom like which is an inclusive classroom.
Okay. Okay, so one more question I have. I think I just think about it as we are talking about the inclusive classroom. So if we talk about the visually impaired students in this class, because the topic is relevant, you know, for the social study. So how we can engage them, you know, personally, because they cannot see the pictures which we are, you know, defining through audio only, and the feel of the European era. So how we can, you know, transmit this information to the visually impaired students?
So that we can actually have something called Braille drawings today is available, and when we are actually depicting the picture, that Braille drawing can actually given to them in their classrooms to feel the drawing, as and when there is an interpretation or a kind of a narration of the same. That will actually sync up to them, and will also be able to kind of make the content feel to them. And those things are also available today, but it's just that as I always tell, this where we attempt to become enablers, I think so the whole journey of learning will change.
Right, right. I think journey is you know, very interesting, as I you know, came to know with this content. So how many activities you know, we can conduct in the inclusive classroom related to this topic, or you know, related to this subject as well? Because we need to engage our visually impaired students, you know, hearing impairment, and it is all about the inclusive classroom. So how many activities and what type of activities we can have?
So here, as you have seen this spotting it, like spotting a torch and so on. So that can be it can be used for both hearing impaired children and visually challenged children if there is a kind of element of Braille picture. But when it is a kid having reading writing difficulty, and the kid would be very good in auditory learning, but when the kid is attempting to read, it might not be the case. So for them, these kind of audio related activities, like for instance matching. So matching can be one of the thing, and there is kind of spotting. You can give a word and you can actually ask them to spot in the picture. So that can be one of the other activity, and making, as I told you before, giving real-time connections. Like for instance, taking a measuring rods or measuring cups and so on into the classroom and say this was actually done, introduced by Napoleon Bonaparte. If they kind of forget everything else also, this measuring thing is connected to Napoleon Bonaparte. That will actually be like their motor memory, you know, they will never forget it.
Okay.
So such kind of connectivities can be encouraged.
Yes, yes. I think, you know, we have move ahead, you know, an extra mile to engage all the students in this inclusive classroom. Mr. Arun, we have hardly 4 minutes in this session, so I would like to ask you a last question. If we talk about, you know, nationalism in India, the chapter, you know, students have already read in the previous classes, and now we are, you know, going through about the rise of nationalism in Europe. So how you can engage and start this topic to understand the students so that they may connect it connect with the subject as well?
So here, when it is nationalism, as now we are just close to our independence, to 75th independence day too. So in that way, when we are kind of wanting to look at this paragraph and how India is so much united with diversity, so that subtle difference we should actually make the kids understand. That is, according to this paragraph, it is only one culture, one language, one creed is only it makes a nation. But here in India is something unique, because every 250 kilometers if you go, there is a new dialect, the new language they speak, and the new culture they see. But still we are united. So we can kind of have a subtle difference. That is, we are if we talk about our nationalist movement, it is more of equality, unity in diversity. So that never has occurred in other states, like in European topic what you've starting to, like we are studying today. But in India, it's little subtle difference, but still we are also a nation state only, wherein we kind of being united in diversity.
Right, as you rightly mentioned, I agreed with you that घाट घाट पर पानी बदले और कोस कोस पर भाषा, ये बिल्कुल सही है और यही हमारी डाइवर्सिटी है. आई थिंक वी शुड रैप इट अप नाउ, क्योंकि हमारे पास सिर्फ 2 ही मिनट का समय है. आप क्या कहना चाहेंगे एज अ कंक्लूडिंग रिमार्क्स? यू हैव हार्डली 2 minutes.
Yes, so the final say is, this is what I want. If there is inclusive classrooms, it's the teacher should actually take another step forward and make sure this is no longer covering a subject. It's more covering the understanding of each child in the classroom. Yes, it would take an extra mile to do so, but if we do so, actually we can have a more unified or more progressive future for our children.
Right, बिल्कुल सही कहा आपने, मैं बिल्कुल आपकी बात से सहमत हूँ. Mr. Arun, you have taken out time for this wonderful session, and with the help of the softwares, we have seen the techniques and all the other things, as you rightly mentioned in your session. Thank you very much for your time, as we are concluding this session with our closing remarks. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, sir.
और अनिकेत, आपका भी बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. आपने आज पूरा जो सेशन था उसे इंटरप्रीट किया. सॉफ्टवेयर की भी मदद से आपने जो उसकी पेस थी उसको मैच करने की कोशिश की, उसके लिए आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, बहुत आभार. थैंक यू वेरी मच. डियर लर्नर्स, हमारा ये जो लाइव इंटरेक्टिव सेशन था इंक्लूसिव क्लासरूम का, ये यहीं समाप्त होता है क्लास 10th का. आप हमारे तमाम और लाइव इंटरेक्टिव सेशंस के लिए जुड़े रहिए PM eVidya चैनल्स और NCERT के ऑफिशियल यूट्यूब चैनल के साथ. फिलहाल मुझे और मेरी पूरी टीम को दीजिए इजाज़त. नमस्कार.